So essentially just a little bit about the Yale class profile. So it's a pretty small class size, around 350 people. And as you can see here, it's pretty evenly split across women and men. It's a very diverse class. The average work experience is around 4 to 5 years. And most people are coming from, I would say, business and econ majors. So like pretty traditional backgrounds, but we also see a lot coming from humanities and STEM majors as well. So it's a pretty diverse background in terms of where people are coming from. And then in terms of the pre-MBA industry, you see a lot of people coming from consulting and financial services. So the third most popular industry is nonprofit. So I would have to say that when I was doing research for Yale, they are a very nonprofit and social sector focused university. So what that means is they do a lot of nonprofit type of like work, even related in their classes. So they're a very like socially conscious school, and that kind of permeates their entire culture as well. So like even in consulting, which is the most popular industry, they have like nonprofit projects as well in case competitions. And then in terms of function, as I mentioned, consulting is the most popular function that most people are coming from. And then the other functions include finance, general management, marketing as well. So for me, I was coming from a consulting background. So my post MBA goal was to pivot into marketing and brand management for my summer internship, and then return to consulting post my MBA. In terms of sector, as I mentioned before, Yale is pretty popular in the nonprofit sector. However, the majority of students do come from for-profit sectors like consulting, banking, marketing, etc., and then some government as well. So it's still pretty diverse. And then just going into a little bit about the test scores and academic requirements. As you can see here, the median GMAT is 730. I believe like the middle 80% is like 600 to 750. And the GRE median verbal 166, medium quant 165, and the middle 80% of quant is 160 to 170. So I do advise getting your quant as close to perfect as possible, since Yale is a pretty quant focused school, and they have no preference in terms of GRE or GMAT. So I would recommend taking the test that you score the best in. And then in terms of GPA, the median GPA is 3.69, with the middle 80% ranging from 3.3 to 3.92. All right, and then in terms of the deadlines, so Yale has 3 deadlines. Round 1 is coming up pretty quickly, September 13th, and then you should be getting a decision around December 6th. Round 2 is January 5th. You'll be getting a decision in March, and then round 3 is in April, and you'll be getting a decision in May. So I do recommend applying in the first 2 rounds. I get a lot of questions on should I apply round 1 versus round 2? Because some people assume applying round 1 will be slightly higher chance of getting accepted. So I do want to caveat that I applied in round 2 because I was trying to get my GMAT score a little bit higher and also work on my essays as well for all the other business schools I was applying to. So I only applied to Cornell round 1. So I do want to say that applying round 1 and round 2 makes virtually no difference. Just make sure your application is in a very good spot so that like you can submit your best foot forward. So I wouldn't like rush to get an application in round 1, just because I'll be getting a decision earlier. So in terms of application components, I think Yale is pretty unique in that they have only one long essay that's I think been around for a very long time. And then they also have a behavioral assessment and video questions before the actual interview invite. So there's like additional components after you submit your application that you have to do. So I'll just talk a little bit about the essay first. So the essay is really one prompt, describe the biggest commitment you have ever made. And I believe this question has been around for a long time. I talked to a lot of students and alumni who's been at Yale, and they mentioned having to write their essay about this as well. So essentially, in asking this essay, the admissions committee is really wanting to learn about how you approached a commitment of importance in your life. So some pieces of advice I have when approaching this essay is to be really authentic and be really personal as well. So don't choose a commitment that you think the admissions committee wants to hear. Really think about in your entire career journey, life journey, what commitments have you made, or what commitment really changed the trajectory of your life, and what kind of like permeated throughout your entire life as well. So for example, the topic I chose was dance. So I've been dancing ever since I was 7 years old. And even though I have quit dance classes when I was in high school, it's still the biggest commitment I have ever made because I still try to continue that throughout my college and also like career journey. And in that, it has taught me like many lessons on perseverance, resilience, and dedication that has permeated the other aspects of my life as well. So really like dig deep and think of something that resonates with you. And obviously don't try to pick something that sounds good on paper, but what was actually your biggest commitment. And then in terms of the video question, so this will come after you submit your application. So when you press submit, you typically have 3 to 5 days to submit your behavior assessment and video questions. So just a quick caveat here that the video questions are not a substitute for your interview. So the committee will review your video questions and assessment and your entire application before deciding who to invite for an interview. And typically, these interviews are a unique way for Yale to really assess your communication skills and ability to think on your feet. So these will be pre-recorded, so they'll be through a program that Yale provides, and typically you'll get 3 questions. The first 2 are usually like really similar. So I would do some research on like Google, ClearMit, Livewire to see kind of what questions people have gotten in the past. Usually the first question will be, why are you pursuing an MBA? Why now? Very similar to your short essays in your application. The second essay will kind of be around why Yale in particular. So I would recommend just like jotting down some bullet points so that you can reference them when you're talking through these video questions, so you're not like that flustered. And then the third question is very randomized. It's basically like getting your perspective on a society perspective. So anything that's been going on in the world today, racial equity issues, diversity issues, getting your perspective on some of your thoughts on initiatives that companies, organizations have done. So for the third question, it's really hard to prepare for because you don't know what you're gonna get. So I would recommend just researching a little bit about some recent trends and also some recent events that have been going on in the world, and just kind of getting your mindset around some of the initiatives companies have done to prepare people. And the last part of the application is the behavioral assessment. And I think this is a pretty unique component of the Yale application. I haven't completed any assessment for any other business school applications. So essentially, it's more along the lines of a personality test that's administered by ETS, which is the testing company that issues the GRE. So essentially, I think this exercise is around 20 to 25 minutes long, and you'll be given 130 pairs of statements and you must select the one that best matches your answers. So I don't want to say that this was probably one of the toughest behavioral assessments that I've done, because I've done them for companies as well when I was recruiting. So essentially, you'll be given two choices, and you have to select the one that I think you would do more. And these choices aren't really that intuitive, so you can't really pick one that's like, oh, obviously this is the right answer. So you would have to like be very deliberate and like think about what like you would like these two options are like very similar, but like which one would you actually be doing in your personal and professional life? So essentially, I think it's very hard to cheat on this assessment because it's 130 questions. They're really testing for, are you consistent in kind of your types of answers? Are you trying to pick something that like a moral person would do? So just like really try to pick something that you would actually do, and don't try to like keep track because it'll be a little bit too much. And then in terms of the letters of recommendation, Yale asks for 2 letters of recommendation. And generally they should be people who have worked with you before. So some good examples are your supervisors, project managers, if you have a more non-traditional type of role, people who have worked with you closely in more of a supervisory fashion. And if you have founded a startup, so generally you can get them from clients or your co-founders or any other people in your company. That's who I would recommend for your 2 letters of rec. Right. And then in terms of the tuition, just pretty quickly, I think this is pretty similar across all of the other top MBA programs. So the tuition is around 80K per year, and there's estimated tuition fees, room and board, textbooks, living expenses, which comes out to be around 110K for your first year. So I would say in terms of living expenses, I think there's a couple ways you can like bring this down. So a lot of students, they live in New Haven. I've also visited New Haven. It's a really it's a beautiful place, and a lot of people get roommates for pretty cheap. And the housing, I think, it's not as expensive as New York City. So you can get a really nice 2-bedroom for like $1,200 each per month, sometimes even lower. So there's definitely ways to bring the cost of living down. So in terms of merit scholarships, so all applicants are considered for merit-based scholarships, and all you have to do is to just check the box in the application saying that you would like to be considered, and then the admissions committee will review all the accepted applicants, and then they'll be notified of their like how much scholarship funds they received at the time of they are admitted.